Hi friends, it's Miss Sarah. I have a book today to share with you. It's called Curious George Visits the Dentist. Ooh, look at this. Looks like he's holding his jaw. He might have some pain there today. George was a good little monkey and always very curious. When he visited his neighbor, Mrs. Ross, he was especially curious about her gleaming basket of fruit. The bright red apple on top looked too perfect to be true. And it was. George bit into it and discovered that it was hard and sticky, not sweet. "Oh dear," said Mrs. Ross, "that's not a real apple, George. It's made of wax." George's tooth began to hurt. "You should always ask before eating something, George," said the man with the yellow hat. By the time he went to bed that evening, George's tooth was less sore, but the next morning his tooth was wobbly. His mouth felt so strange he couldn't even enjoy his favorite pancake breakfast. "We should see the dentist, George," said the man. "She can make sure that that tooth of yours is all right." There he is with his pancakes. The man with the yellow hat is on the phone with the dentist office. The man explained that the dentist was a doctor for teeth, but George didn't want anyone to touch his tooth. What if it hurt? George walked along the path to the dentist office with his friend, his steps getting slower and slower until he ran off to pick a daisy. You see that daisy? A daisy is a type of flower. "That's very pretty," said the man chasing after George, "but we have an appointment and we shouldn't be late. You'll be a good little monkey, won't you?" George nodded. He always wanted to be good. In the waiting room was a welcoming place. There were lots of things to see and do. One by one, the young patients were called away by a woman in a white suit. George watched them go through a red door, each holding on to a grown-up's hand. One frightened boy was carried by his mother. George was glad that he wouldn't have to see the dentist by himself. "George, you're next," the woman announced. George was sad to put down his book, but he was also a little curious about where the children were going. Was there a play area on the other side? We'll have to find out. Look at this. The examining room was not filled with toys, but it was still interesting. There was a sink and a long chair for lying down. There was a stool for the dentist and a light above the chair. George was curious. Why were there two faucets in the room? "Hello, George. I'm Dr. Wang. It's nice to meet you." Here's Dr. Wang. She's the dentist. "Why don't you lie down and we'll take a look at your teeth?" George saw a row of silver dental exam tools on the counter. These were long and pointy. See those? How do you think George is feeling? It looks to me like he is hiding behind the legs of the man in the yellow hat. He might be feeling a little nervous. And here's the great big chair to sit in and lie down. Let's see. Oh. "George, would you like me to try out the chair first?" the man asked. "Great idea," said Dr. Wang. See, George can watch. This will help so that he's not so nervous anymore. The man lay down. "Open your mouth wide." The dentist shined a big light down in the man's mouth, and she took out a small white instrument to take a closer look at each tooth. "This is a mouth mirror. George watched. It didn't look too scary. Next, I'll count the teeth, Dr. Wang told George. She picked up one of those sharp, pointy tools. This is an explorer. 1, 2, 3. Then the man exclaimed, "Ow!" "Uh-oh," the dentist said. George ran away. He ran right out that door. Uh-oh, is that a good idea? He doesn't know what's out there. Oh, here's the hallway. He left the exam room and he scurried down the hall. There were many doors and he didn't know which was the way out. Look at this. We have orange, purple, yellow, red, blue, red, purple. That is many doors. I wonder how many that is. Should we count them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different doorways. Looks like that is where he came from. He tried one door and walked into another exam room. "A monkey!" a little girl cried, jumping off the exam chair in excitement. George backed out of the room. She is excited. Is that the way out? No, it's not. He continued down the hall, opening doors and disturbing patients. In one room, the scared little boy from the reception area was crying. He's still feeling upset. George had an idea. He jumped onto the table and began juggling packets of dental floss. The little boy stopped crying and smiled. Next, George leaped over the sink in the middle of the room. He pushed a button and a nearby water jet spurted, spraying water all around the room. George squirted water into his own mouth and then into the little boy's mouth too. Next, George decided to switch on the overhead lamp, but the lamp tumbled over, spilling George safely to the floor. The little boy clapped, but uh-oh, Dr. Wang stood in the doorway. "George, you're a naughty monkey," Dr. Wang said. "Look what a mess you've made." Curious George, what a mess this time. This monkey was the only one who could get Tyler to stop crying, the little boy's mother said. He's not crying anymore. How do you think he's feeling now? A little bit better, isn't he? He's no longer scared. Now he thought that was funny. Dr. Wang considered. She said, "It does look like we have some eager young patients. And if it weren't for you, George, I wouldn't have found the cavity in your friend's mouth. Turns out I need to have a filling," the man with the yellow hat said. "Come on, George. Let's both get our teeth checked." Whose turn is it now? George. As soon as Dr. Wang looked in George's mouth, she laughed. "Why, George, all you have is a loose tooth." A loose tooth sounded worrisome to George. It's going to fall out soon. There's a new permanent tooth right behind it. It looks like you have been doing a great job brushing your teeth. George jumped on his chair. He did. He brushed every night and every morning. Do you brush at night too? And in the morning? I'm proud of you. Great job. Keep brushing and don't eat too many sweets, the dentist reminded him. You want your teeth to be in good shape for the tooth fairy. Look how pleased he is. He looks excited. George waved goodbye to his new friends and he went home with a new toothbrush, some dental floss, and instructions for his loose tooth. I wonder what the instructions were. Let's find out. He should bite into as many hard apples as he could, as long as they were real, of course. There's George, and he's saying goodbye to his new friends. He decided he didn't mind going to the dentist at all. That night he ate a healthy dinner with an apple for dessert, and his tooth fell out in the second bite. Only took 2 bites? Wow. He put the tooth under his pillow. The next morning, George found a special coin in the tooth's place. When Mrs. Ross came to check on George that afternoon, George proudly showed her his coin from the Tooth Fairy. Here he is showing Mrs. Ross. He's holding that coin in his hand. Well, that was a quick way to lose a tooth, but I don't recommend it next time. She doesn't want him to eat wax apples, only real ones. Curious George visits the dentist. I know some of my friends have gone to the dentist this summer. I wonder if you saw a monkey at your dentist. I hope you enjoyed this book. I enjoyed reading it to you. See you later.